And officially, a very, very, very warm welcome to the Product Book Club. Yay! It's just 30 days and we are here, and that's awesome. So the culprit was this post. If I did not write it, by the by, this was a mistake. I was supposed to copy paste this for Jessica in her DM, and by mistake, I put it as a post and it went viral. I mean, I never expected 200,000 impressions on a post. I mean, this was crazy, right? So that was the culprit, and that landed us into 2 clubs. I did not want to do anything. I was at a part of my life where I'm like, I'm done, man. I don't want to do anything else. But you people, you made it happen. Thank you so much. I think it also gave a very different energy to my life as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And everything else that has happened in the last 30 days is all of this. You can go and check out. This is our link tree, and I will give you know the details. But in case if anyone of you are not from the book club but has come just for the book review, this is for you. Our monomaniacal focus for the next 52 weeks is we will read 52 product books in 52 weeks and become better product builders. That's exactly what we want to do. And let's definitely do it as a tribe because reading alone sucks. Let's build a reading habit and keep it as a habit for this lifetime. You're not reading it for just a year, right? You're going to keep it for your lifetime. So to make it a little more official, I made it as a OKR, which is an objective and a key result. Okay, the objective is simple. It's reading and reflecting product books and becoming better producteers. But the KR, the key result is the 10% of probably 80 members of this club has read more than last year, right? How are we going to measure? Based on your social posting and self-reporting. If you come and say, this book club made me read more, then we meet our OKR. Otherwise, ding, right? We don't, right? So, oops, what happened to that? So here is our reading schedule. This is a very, I think this is on a automatic. Thank you, Arjun. This is again automatic. Okay, so what has happened here is the 52 books that we selected. Here is a boring version of it. This is how we will read it. And the schedule is made a certain way based on reading difficulty, based on whether it is a product book, design book. See, at the end of the day, all product builders should know a few things because your job is about product success, for which you should be awesome with prioritization as well as, making decisions. That's your job. And as a result of it, you should know a little bit of desirability, which is your product design, viability, which is your business, and feasibility, which is a little bit of tech, and the auxiliary skills around it, how to negotiate, how to talk to people, how to really present your stuff, all of these things. That's taken into account, and that's how the reading schedule has been made. This is the beautiful version. You can go and check it out in our reading schedule. That's pretty much what is available in our vault. So to do this, we have done something called as a reading sprint. It's basically a 2-week sprint. The first week is to read and the second week is to review, because these two needs a completely different skill set. Reading, you can just read it, assimilate it, but reviewing is a whole another ballgame. How do you collaborate with people? How do you put it in slides? How do you get into public speaking? Completely different set of skills. That is why we have specially designed a reading sprint, and we take maximum 5 people, because more than that, it will become hard to kind of control it. For every book, there will be 1 reading sprint, and I'm going to work with every single one of you in this reading sprint. So what is this 10 by 30 all about, right? If you take any book, and if you're able to put it in 10 big ideas from that book distilled in 30 minutes, that's awesomeness, right? The best way is actually to read the book by yourself. The second best is to be in a 10 by 30 review. And that's exactly what we are going to do. And today we are going to do the mom test. the 10 by 30 review by our first reading sprinters, right? Over to you, sprinters. Let's take it away. All right, so let me come back to you at the end. And this is awesomeness. Any questions from any one of you? Let them go for 30 minutes, and then we will have a discussion for the next 30 minutes where you can ask all your questions per se. Okay, over to you. Everybody who has the tag RS is a part of the reading sprint, so you can catch hold of them.
So hello everyone, the Product Book Club finally here with the first review. The book is The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. I think a lot of us would have read it, but for those who didn't, we hope that this 10 by 30 really induces you to read it. So the review panel is the 5 of us. Anupama Joshi, she's a senior product manager at ADB. Myself, Sanchita Vij, I'm product analyst at Meesho. Sukhraj Kaur, she's an analyst geoanalytics at BCG. Kalyani Chopade, junior UX designer at Indegene. Ragini Lal, learning experience and innovation at the student act. And of course, Karthi, who helped us and handheld us through this entire thing. So I'll start with talking about why anybody should read the Mom Test. Before that, I'd like to talk about who should read the Mom Test. So a good audience defining answer would be anybody who wants to have customer conversations. That can be anybody who has a startup idea, anybody who already has a startup which is in their growth phase, anybody who is a sales professional, a business development professional, a UX researcher, a product manager, anybody who wants to know what their users are doing should be able to benefit out of the Mom Test. So what this book is really good at, what it does, is it tells you what is a good customer conversation and what is also a bad customer conversation. Then it tells you how can you make any customer conversation good by asking good questions. And in case a meeting has gone wrong, how do you fix it? It also talks about what you should do before and after these conversations, as well as the during of them, and how to start having conversations with the right customer segment, how to find the people that you want to talk to in the first place. Simply put, the Mom Test is a set of rules which makes your customer conversation and the questions that you ask in them so solid that even if you go and ask your mom about these ideas, she will not be able to lie to you. With that being said, I'll start with the first big idea, which is around psychological biases. So the first step to having good customer conversations is to realize that by default, customer conversations are bad and they're misleading. The status quo of customer conversations is very misleading because number one, you already have to rely on somebody's words and not their actions. So it's already very misleading. And to fix those, anybody as an interviewer should take that active responsibility once they've realized that, okay, this is bad and I need to actively fix it. And that is what the Mom Test is a good guide towards. A good way to start that is to realize what are the different psychological biases of the interviewee as well as the interviewer themselves, which can be biasing the customer conversation to create false and bad data. So suppose that this is you and this is the truth about your customers. And this is the path between you and the truth about your customers. And like the game goes, there have to be obstacles. So there are obstacles such as your customers' perception of themselves versus their actual self. So I think a few people on the call would be able to relate as well. We all have a perception of how we do things, and then there's a reality of how we actually do them. But when we talk to people, we tend to talk about the perception that we have of ourselves. So similarly, any customer that we'd be talking to would also have that perception, and they're more likely to talk about that perception instead of what they actually do. Secondly, there is the interviewer's tendency to be seeking approval. And to add to that, there is the customer's tendency to provide that approval. All of this together and many more psychological biases tend to create a lot of false and bad data. And the mom test and this review further talks about how we can avoid that bad data to pollute our business decisions. Over to Kalyani.
So we have heard about bad conversation. And so what comprises of bad conversation are bad data. And what are different types of bad data are false positive. That is, they convince you that you are on the right path when you're not. And false negatives are the ideas or discouragement, um, which stops you from proceeding ahead with a good idea. So let's dig into the types of it. So types of bad data and how to avoid them. So first is compliments. You have always heard of compliments, and who doesn't like to get compliments? But it is a bad data as it does not give you anything solid to go ahead with. So the best way to go around them is to deflect them and get back to business. Then secondly, there comes fluffs. So fluffs are generic sayings. I would, I might, but which again gives us nothing to build on as such. So what we can do is anchor the fluffs and get back on track by asking questions like, when did that happen last for you? To walk you through the process, what did you do after that? Or how did they solve it? So you can anchor on fluffs. And third is the idea. It is good that customer is indulging and giving you ideas, but remember to ask the what's and why's and try to understand the motivation behind it all. Dig into their idea, explore it. May or may not be a priority, but it's good to gain perspectives. Over to Anupama.
Yeah, thanks, Kalyani. Um, I loved stories, and here is one story. Mom and her son are sitting, and son is telling mom that, yes, mom, please listen to my idea. This is a business idea, and I do you like iPad, and do you like cooking? So mom would obviously say that she likes cooking, and the business idea is about cookbook for her iPad. And when the son tells her about his business idea for which he will leave his job and he will do everything possible, and if he tells mom about his idea without knowing her interest, she will end up giving compliments. Yes, I really love this idea and I will really buy it. This is looking really nice, and let me know how it will launch. And she will go little further and she'll say that I will also introduce you to some of my friends with whom I go walking. We really talk about recipes and all. So, if the son is not has not read the mom test book, or he is not into the business ideas and the conversations, he would take those compliments as a positive signal. He will leave his job and just jump into his business, which is wrong. So, the author suggested that you need to understand how is this meeting good or not. So the compliments that we have listed here, if you are only getting those compliments, this is a bad meeting. So but if you go ahead and ask some more better important questions to your mom, and not only to your mom but your all prospective clients, you will get better results. So you need to get some commitments out of it, and the client should be curious on what are the next step we are going to take, how are we going to provide the trial versions. And when it is a real problem, right, clients want to try it, they want to buy it. So if you're getting a question, how would I buy this, how would I get the trial of it, and can you just come back and talk to my team about it, so they would have some more questions for it. So when you are into a critical conversation, look how the flow is going, and the words between next slide please.
Yeah. Just like from the story, we have heard about how we put our ego on the line to know whether our idea is good or not. Anybody who had an idea of an app or starting a business goes ahead and asks about, hey, I have this brilliant idea. Does it make sense? Will it work? Asking like that, we are accidentally approval seeking because we are exposing our ego, which leads people to feel they ought to protect us by saying nice things. When we start talking about ideas, people will try to protect our feelings. So instead of doing that, what we can do is we can talk about people's lives, problems, and the processes they go through in their daily life to get an insight into whether an idea is good or not. This will help us to get commitments, as Anupama talked about, instead of getting compliments. We need to talk less, listen more, and avoid approval seeking directly or indirectly when we are talking about an ideas or any product that we want to work on.
So, like Kalyani talked about, we've reflected all the compliments, we've anchored all the fluff, and we've digged into the whats, the whys, and the specifics of the conversation. What comes with that is the possibility of receiving some bad news. So, here are three important things that will help us to figure out what is the specific motivation behind any customer. So, the first important idea is to love bad news. There is a possibility that a lot of the questions that we are going to ask, or at least one of them, is going to be a make or break question, which will lead us to realize that the problem that we're trying to solve, maybe that is not just a big enough problem, or the solution that we have for it is just not the right solution. In order to make the full use of such data, we need to be open to accepting this bad news, because it is either leading us to realize that, okay, I need to focus on a different problem, or I need to focus on getting a different solution for this problem. In both cases, it's helping us better our business decisions. Secondly, and this is about how to frame an overall conversation, uh, the idea is to look before you zoom. So if you start a conversation being very specific, if you, for example, in the earlier idea, if you just start talking about cookbooks for iPads instead of first talking about cooking and iPads or technology in general, uh, you will get a very biased view of your customer's behavior. So a good idea is to first start broad, take a bigger picture of what your customer thinks about the total space in general. And once you've figured some specific problem that they have, or specific um, signal from the customer, that is when you can zoom into that specific area of questions. And that is when you can further realize whether what you're trying to talk to them about, it makes sense for them. And the third is to realize what kind of risks your idea can have. There can be a product risk. For example, is this product something which is feasible to build? And once built, is it profitable to scale it? Is it even feasible to make some money out of scaling it? And secondly, there can be a customer or a market risk. For example, is there a large enough group of people who want this, and are they willing to pay a profitable price for this? These are two important kinds of risks that you might discover during having customer conversations. And once you discover these risks, it's also important to ask questions to de-risk the business by figuring out whether people would be willing to pay for something, or asking specific questions which can help you de-risk.
So let's talk about now before, during, and after the meeting. Even if we do everything right, there are chances of still getting bad results. That's because there goes a lot around the conversation. So one has to have the right process wrapped around a conversation to get what they desire. Next slide, please. So before even starting the meeting, one needs to prep, do your homework. If you haven't yet chosen a findable segment, focus on it. Get with your team, decide on your big goals. If relevant, decide on ideal steps and commitments. If the conversation have the right tool to figure out who to talk to, create a series of best guesses about what the person cares about. There are a lot of things to prep before getting into the client meeting. Then comes commit. Commit, be punctual, get frame the conversation, but do remember to keep it casual. Ask good questions which pass the mom test, and whenever you come ahead see into the sorry whenever you face the bad data, deflect them, or as we discussed, anchor or dig into. And remember to take good notes and always have the tone of the customer, what they meant to see in mind, and note that as well. And once you have done everything, there's come time to review it. Review it with your team. Review the notes and keep the key customer notes in mind. If relevant, transfer the few notes for a permanent storage so you can view it while making decisions. And update plans and beliefs as the project goes ahead. And always decide on what's going to be your next three big questions or steps.
I think you're on mute.
Hello.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah. Commitment is really important, right? So not only your words, but your actions should speak about your commitment. And when we deal with the clients, we have to get commitment from them. To give an example, your partner might say 10 times I love you to you, but if he's not committing about marriage, so there is no meaning of it, right? So with that commitment, when we take to our customers, if the customers are not giving us some kind of commitment about our business proposal, we will not have any fruitful results. And the author has suggested us three types of commitments that a client should give. And if the client is not giving that kind of commitment, we should probe the clients to provide those kind of commitments to us. So the first one is time commitment, the second one is reputation risk commitment, and the third one is the finance commitment. So at the end of the meeting, you should have clear goals. So when is the next meeting? When do we have the known goals for the next meeting? And with whom are we going to give the next presentation? How far are we going to give the trial product or not? And is the client introducing us to the decision maker? So when somebody really wants to buy your product, that person, if he's not in a position of taking the decision, that person will certainly introduce you to others. And the last but not the least is the finance. So we have to have some letter of intent, we have to get some pre-order and the deposit. So the customer who just look to be friendly with you, who say that they are interested in your product, but they are not going to buy, they are the most dangerous source of mixed signals. Over to you. Next slide, please.
Now that we have talked about what before, during, and after the meeting is to set right expectations and to get the learning out of it that we want, we also should know what is meeting anti-pattern. Meeting anti-pattern is basically the list of all the things which your meeting should not be in your own mind and in the mind of the person that you are going to talk to. Learning about customers and their problems should be a casual conversation, because every time we are discussing a problem or discussing a product, we are not looking for customers, we are also looking for learnings, their own path through a problem, and what are their unique insights about it. There is a tendency to relegate every opportunity for customer conversation into calendar block, which is a bad use of your time. Because in many times you can find that once you talk to a customer, the problem that you have in a mind, is not even a real problem. At that point, you will be stuck with 25 minutes left and nothing else to talk about. There is a time cost to formality. It clobbers learning. Firstly, because you would have to take notes of everything that goes through 30 minutes time slot, even if it is not relevant to the problem that you want to discuss. And secondly, once you set a formal time slot, you're setting expectations of a product showcase, not a conversation. If you don't have a product to show, make it a casual move to talk about the problems, the insights, and the learning path of a particular person throughout a problem that they are facing. Lastly, giving as little information as possible about your product will not only protect you from having pathos problem, but also help you to steer the conversation in a direction that gives you all the useful information that you need to derive important learnings. Over to you.
So keeping it casual is extremely important, especially in the early stages when you're still defining the problem that you're solving. So it's important to have separate techniques that you're using to have these conversations when it's about identifying the problem versus when it's about solutions and sales and talking to your customer about that. And it isn't about having those, making it a very long exercise. Spend an hour with your team and come up with what are the 3 top learning goals that the team needs to answers to move forward in the project, and then go out and talk to people. And when we say people, being specific is extremely important, because what tends to happen is if you go out and talk to people and you're talking to too many types of people, you're going to come back with very mixed insights, and that's not going to help you move forward at all. You'll be very confused. So figuring out the right customer segment is extremely important. And when you hit that right goal of, who am I talking to and where I can find them, once you can answer that question, you know that you've sliced the customer segment extremely well, and you're able to find the customers where, you can go and have literally 5 minutes worth of conversation with them and not make it a very elaborate and long affair. So you can go to a physical or a digital location and ask people about their lives without making without needing an excuse. But in all of this, it's extremely important to not move into the sales mode. So it's important to keep in mind you have a learning goal. You have 3 questions you're trying to answer, and it's not about the revenue target. It's not about making a sale. So if you switch into the sales mode or the pitch mode, then everything sort of goes for a toss. We can move to the next step. Okay. So how do you find these customers? Once you've identified your customer segment, how do you find these customers? So there are 2 parts to it. One is when you are looking for a more formal, longer method, and one which is more about when you're having those really quick 5-minute conversations. So for the 5-minute conversations, either being in that right environment is important, or if you're not able to find the right environment, creating that right environment is important. So it could look like, running an industry blog that helps you get your thoughts in order, and then you're a better conversation partner, and people start approaching you through the blog. You can give free speeches, or you can give free talks on the topic of your choice, and do it in a place where your customers tend to be. And then in the more informal setting or the networking time, you're able to talk to those people and talk to multiple people. You can organize these meetups. If nobody is organizing meetups where you can teach if you're on this topic, you can organize these meetups. And this is especially interesting or especially useful when you moved into a new city or you're moving into a new industry yourself. And lastly, more on a digital world, create a landing page about the value proposition that you have, and then have chats with people who actually inquire about the product or service you created the landing page around. So that is when you're looking for very quick conversations. In terms of shorter, sort of more elaborate when it's a more formal setting, properly asking for help can go a very long way. So the author has a very interesting mnemonic that they use, which he calls very few wizards properly ask for help. So V for vision, half a sentence on how you are impacting the world. F for framing, where you are in the process of your product or service development. W for weakness, which is where you are stuck. And P for pedestal, which is important for them to understand why they are uniquely suited to help you. Why should they spend their time with you? So why are they unique in this situation? And A, asking for that help. So that's a very interesting mnemonic. And with that, I think we've summarized all the key ideas. And essentially, the idea is you can accelerate your success by having better customer conversations. And that sort of is rooted to the idea of better customer insights through better customer conversations. Thank you.